walking, young and lovely, good girl from Balkan lands is walking. When she passes, each man she passes, each man goes ooh.
If we're explaining a global utopia to somebody, we have to say, what does this utopia consist of? You know? Robots are, of course, going to, that's a non-issue. It's the next step. Like, robots are going to happen. Let's not talk about robots, though. Let's talk about what we can individually do to take us forward on a personal level. Because if you can change yourself, you can change your family. If you can change your family, you can change the community. If you change the community, you can change your country. Change the country, change the world. If you can change, and I can change, maybe the whole goddamn world can change.
This man for president.
I actually...
For robot president.
If we have a global dictatorship, I elect Sonia. So far, I would like to nominate Sonia for Grand High Exalted Mr.
She'll do it.
Do you like hamburgers?
See, I knew feminism was on the right way.
Because if you like hamburgers, if she is president, not hamburgers.
No.
That's Utopia, it's gone then.
That's too soon, too soon.
In my decentralized autonomous family, we will have hamburgers made out of spinach and cream cheese. What can we do on a personal level and on a community level to spark this change?
I think that's a huge thing. I think there's a lot of effort out there. You know, oh, let's get the government to change this, that, the other thing. But I think the people that are really on the road to creating it are the people that are starting up like co-ops and things like that.
Yeah.
Like that bread company that everybody makes like 40 or 60,000 a year or something like that.
You're touching on an interesting point. So we know that the current consumer system is very detrimental to the environment. That's not a contentious thing to say. It's just an observable fact. So what ties us mostly to the current economic system? What is it? It's food, right? Because you need food every single day. You have to eat food. You know, iPhones are nice, but you need food. So the current, I would say it starts with, like you said, the current system can start by being changed by distancing ourselves from the current agricultural industrial system. That's the first step. So people who live in co-ops and these kind of communities, excellent. I think that is the first step. We can all start by growing tomatoes in your house. You know, if you grow a little bit of food, you don't have to immediately move into a farm right now, but that's the first thing, distancing yourself any way possible from spending more money. We vote with our dollar.
But okay, for food, you mentioned, you know what, there is an interesting fact to you. I would like you to tell me what you think about it. So, you know, when people apply to work, some of the bosses, they separate them on northerners and southerners. And they like more northerners one.
In Taiwan?
Not Taiwan. Taiwan's different story. So in Europe and in America, especially America. So why do they like northerners if you have some Nordic, especially German ancestors and stuff like that? Why do they say that? You know, like northerners, they have screwed up winters, you know, they have to prepare their food, they have to worry quite well what do they do, they have to be good to their neighbors, they have to be very fine to each other. So they refine their attitude so well that they're actually very contributing to the company. On the other side, southerners, they have like, okay, you know, so again, like I do whatever I want, I will still have an apple on my thing because it just grows, the weather is good, you know, I don't have to be. So those guys have totally different attitude toward food, money, resources. So for that guy over there, for the northern guy, you see, okay, listen, this guy's crazy, I cannot work with him. And the southern guy says, okay, this guy's crazy, he's going too much. So how do you do that? How do you teach the, and both of them are intellectuals, by the way. How do you teach the other guy? Okay, the southerner or the northerner, how to behave same.
Good, thank you. I like the way this conversation is going. Because now we're talking about the real things, yes. So you're right. That is a major thing that we need to consider are these differences in viewpoints. And I think that's the intersection between personal change and policy change. Right now, the governments, as a matter of fact, do subsidize a lot of different things. And I think that's the policy side, changing those subsidies to things that we can support. For example, the millions or billions of dollars, I don't have the exact figure, of money that we put into industrial agriculture could be spent on organic farming, or at least a portion of it. You know, like solar, for example. I have a friend who's a solar engineer. Solar gets 6% of the funding that oil gets, you know, in the United States, and it's already up to something like the best solar panels in the world are like 42% efficient. So like we're almost reaching the return on investment with solar, and it has a minimal subsidy. So by reallocating subsidies, that's what we can do on a policy level. So yeah, that's a valid question. I think that's the answer to that is policy.
I think that
Yeah.
we should let the market do that actually. I think that if the market,
Well, the market related to it.
I think that if people want to pay for solar, it's the best thing to make solar work. I don't want to get subsidies because when you get subsidies, you get NASA.
You get NASA.
NASA. And
What's
you
wrong
get
with NASA?
Yeah, you actually got capitalism. There's basically
I didn't
the
say
government.
I didn't say I don't like capitalism, by the way.
No, but that was basically a creation of European government.
No, well, okay.
Well, the
Listen,
East India Company, we can start with that. Maybe. You can start with maybe the East India Company, which was a government monopoly.
well, listen. If the world doesn't buy that stuff, then it's not going to exist. Believe me. I mean, there's always going to be bubbles. Bubbles are going to be always stuff like that. Economical, financial. They're going to take time. They're always going to happen. When there's technological advantage in stuff, there's always going to be a bubble.
Well, I'm just fundamentally opposing your idea that capitalism is associated with the free market. I think that's not.
Well, there is no
It's
free
a
market.
This
historical.
capitalism maybe, but the way
I
it's
mean, maybe you can dream up some utopian capitalism that's never existed in any human community.
but if you subsidize something, it won't work. It won't push itself.
NASA.
We are
You just gave
currently-
the example of NASA.
the entire current oil system is completely subsidized. So we're absolutely using it. I mean, there's no question. There is no such thing as a free market, or at least there never has been. You know, governments always interact with the economy. There's no question about that. There is no free market, except for maybe if we set up a barter system among us. But I think this guy has a monopoly on the sandwiches. So I'm going to maintain my position. My point is, like, on a governmental international scale, there's never been a free market before, at least not in modern history. So, like, talking about taking away subsidies, sure, we could talk about that, but like, you would be opposing the current system as well. That's not saying that, you know, maybe we should take away all subsidies. Then that's kind of a conservative argument in terms of how much should the government be investing in things, which is fair. You could make that argument. I'm not necessarily against it. But we currently do subsidize a lot of different things. My point was to reallocate these subsidies into things which would be, first of all, more sustainable, more equitable, more progress focused in terms of technological progress, maybe artistic progress. Because these are the kinds of things that people can focus on once we take ourselves out of, for example, physical labor, for one. Machinery has done that. Mental tasks that can be solved by a computer, which is replacing jobs on a daily basis. He touched on this. It's a thing called basic income, right?
Well, I agree with basic
It's
income.
a-
That's a no-brainer, it seems to me.
Well, I mean, it's contentious to say that. I seem to agree, but I mean, yeah, the real question is what do we do as individuals, and how can we show our support? This girl who's not present, but yet made her presence known, would say that consciousness is where it begins, and that's fair, but what is consciousness if not education?
Yeah,
Right?
education, that's it. That's the solution for
So we
everything.
have to reach the kids. How do we reach these kids?
Technology.
Technology is how we reach the kids.
Send the robots down.
You keep your kids with robots away from my kids.
Go ahead, Marco.
Somebody said that we should have a decentralized system that,
He said it.
Yeah.
I
No,
agree.
that was Lynn. That's the girl who was there.
you mean that people in one region, they decide for themselves everything, and then there's no overall ruling system.
Except for basic stuff like don't murder people.
Yeah,
But
so
again-
like bankers here, and like good guys here and stuff. But then what if the good guys need, for example, what if the good guys now happen to lead banks? Then the bankers should, they will lead banks.
Well, I think financial systems.
This is kind of a weird way to present it. Like there would be a banker town and a cobbler town.
I was
and a
kinda just
cooper town.
I said that.
That's a bit weird.
Decentralizing
The
is
point
kind of
is,
impossible.
the point is, for me, I don't know if you agree. You also agree with decentralization, right?
I was the one who said that.
Yeah. It's about being human scale, right? Credit. Everything, we all need it. All society needs some credit. Paleolithic people probably had credit of some sort. At least the Neolithic did. You know, you marry my daughter, I'll lend you this cow. That kind of thing. Right? This is David Craig.
You marry my cow, I'll lend you my daughter.
Yeah. So you always had credit. Now the thing is, should that credit be implemented in a human scale way? Like you lend your neighbor your cow and later on, you're top on the list for marriageable material or something. Or you have chickens later on you need or whatever. Or do we have city bank? And I think we should move more towards human scale. The same thing with technology. Should we have an entire infrastructure of wires and coal mines and power plants, or should we have everyone have a backyard solar panel that they can maintain and understand themselves? So, in my opinion, decentralization really means moving things towards the human scale. And I think that can be very technological. In theory, everyone can have a 3D printer in their house, and that'd be very human scale.
In their bathroom.
Right? You
That
won't
was
have
one of
factories,
the
which are not human scale.
99% movement. I think that was one of their ideas, decentralization of like of
Of
ruling
how?
and everything. That like if somebody if some people want, like you have some people want to be independent in one region of the country, they just decide if they want to be independent. They have their voting. It's nothing to do with the overall government or whatever they want to do. This is like decentralized.
Switzerland has a similar system. They have referendums on local level.
Yeah, referendums.
Yeah, yeah. So the local community decides about matters that concern them.
Yeah, and for example, also like if we would get to Utopia, we need to have like what I think is like a division of wealth. It needs to be not like completely equal. Not everybody should have the same, but there should be some limits that you can earn. Everything you earn over that should go to something else or someone else.
Instead of earning your next 10 million, they give you a boat, and the rest of the money goes to something else.
You earn $1 million. You don't need you earn 10 million. You don't need more in your life.
Besides how much you need.
No, we can have it. Yeah.
But you can have like a division 1 to 7. Like the poorest guy can make 1,000 euros. The richest guy can only make 7,000 euros. Like what is like. And then you can, because also one of the 99% talks that they had is that the wealth is distributed. That 1% of people in the world own more than 50% of wealth or something. So like so basically now we could have Utopia, and everybody could have whatever they want. It's just that it was divided properly. And then and also I think that schools, hospitals, and all the stuff that are naturally not profitable, that you're like, you gotta go to a hospital. Hospitals should work to cure people, to help people, not to make profit. So all those things should be public, like and free, and you should so schools, hospitals should be free, and you should divide wealth to a more better way than it's divided now. And then in that maybe system, people will not worry about money that much, and maybe you would even not have currency. But then you could or I should say robots would change everything. So then all the free time we would do that, you said, research, and then we would even for example, I think a lot of people here who do their job, they don't do it just for the money. They do it because they want to improve with what they do and do research. So you would do even if there's no money somebody giving you. So for me, that would be like a perfect system.
Well, he brought it up first. This basic income. That's the idea that's out there now.
Or maybe 70%.
Basic income
Basic
is
income.
that you cannot have extremely rich people. It just say, hey, more enough is enough. You have billions, and then you have kids who are eating paper for breakfast. So I really think, I don't know, maybe people would think that's too communist of me or something, but it's
Who's communist?
No, we're all communists.
There better not be communists here right now.
No, we're all communists.
You guys are not communists. I didn't see any of you at the meeting last Tuesday. Now, the thing is, you guys convinced me, all right? So we can implement basic income and also what income's in. That's the problem with talking about stuff like this. Yeah, great, we agree that we should, not have inequality, but then what? That's why I keep saying personal things. What can we personally do? What can we do right now or tomorrow to start? What can we do?
That's a really good question, and the flip side of that same coin is what's holding us back from doing that. Alex, did you want to say something?
I wanted to say something, I forgot. No, it was about, people can still work without getting salaries, but who is going to do the dirty jobs? who will enjoy cleaning the bathrooms?
Robots.
Yeah.
That's not really about the robots.
All right.
That's what's going to get them to revolt.
Yeah, but now it's easy to say robots in 21st century. But let's say when Karl Marx was writing his Capital, he didn't have idea about robots, and he had this idea: in a future communist society, people will work without getting salaries. And how? Who is going to do that job?
Well, Marx also didn't believe machines could create value, and I think he was wrong about that.
Doesn't matter. I mean, just saying, who is going to do the dirty jobs?
What dirty jobs, for example?
Cleaning the bathrooms, or I don't know.
No, yeah, you can't get robots to do
Yeah,
all
but
that
maybe
sort of
No, but
stuff.
some people might find that.
Robots.
Now this gets us to
That's something we
Fourier.
need to address, though.
I mean, Fourier.
No, robots is a
Utopia.
very good solution, but I'm saying if there are no robots, we have to find a solution to this question.
Well-
For the utopia, who is going to do the dirty jobs?
Well, I'm bringing up Fourier. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He was a utopian thinker in the early 19th century, and he dreamed up these intentional communities with maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people, and I forget as many. And he said kids love playing around in garbage, so they would clean up the garbage. I mean, he said this with a straight face, as I recall, in his book. But he thought if you get a large enough pool of people in an intentional community, these questions aren't that difficult actually to solve.
So utopia is not possible without robots.
No,
That's not what he's saying.
Fourier believed that this question of how work would be distributed is not that difficult, and it's actually not that hard. Think about when you had roommates. You know, doing the dishes was not, a life or death struggle. Usually, it was something that can be worked out equitably among people if they feel they have control of their lives, if they feel they're in an environment where they matter.
Yeah, let me give a good example of that. Where I'm from, there's a thing that goes on every summer. It's called the Oregon Country Fair, and it runs. There are 6 or 7 paid positions. They're year-round paid positions. The event only goes on for 3 days, but there are volunteers that are there for 2 months, both setting up during the event and breaking down. There are some crews that just work with traffic or security. You might think that's very glamorous. There are other crews that clean the toilets and do the recycling. But you know what? Everybody else cheers them, hugs them, loves them, gives them things, brings them things. They eat first, actually. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they eat first, the recycling crew and the toilet crew. I mean, of course, after they wash their hands or whatever. But if you ask them, I've thought, man, I would never want to work on recycling crew. They wake up the earliest because they have to do all of the recycling before the public gets there because it's loud and they have to bring in carts and stuff through the fair and pick up all the recycling. It's messy, it's dirty, they're getting stuff all over them. They work really hard, they love to work together. It's a family. This crew, this recycling crew is a family. They work really hard, they get a free pass to the sauna and shower, they go do that and they're done. And the bathroom crews are the same thing. They go around, they have to go and, seriously, there's tens and tens of thousands of people, so the bathrooms get really dirty. But they go around and they clean them, and when they come by, if you're close to one of the bathrooms, when they come by, everyone's cheering them. Yay, we love you, you're the best, thank you so much, come by my place later, I'm at booth 305, I'll give you something nice, or I'm the director of this food booth, come by, we'll give you some free food, and it really works out like that. It doesn't ever, at least in this small scale, it doesn't ever become an issue of, who's going to clean the toilets. All the jobs get filled, and nobody complains about it.
I think toilets can be cleaned by students because they don't have jobs, they're studying.
That's also
kindergarten
Like students in college students.
That's a good solution. Why not?
Because they're still not doing jobs and research. Real.
Yes,
I don't think that's what's stopping us from Utopia.
So I think
I'll clean the bench. I'm on with you.
I like that attitude.
But this is, you know, the mindset. Our mindset is like this: who's gonna clean the toilet? Nobody says, okay, what we're gonna eat. Yeah.
If you live in a community in which you are engaged and fulfilled, people will clean the toilet. Somebody will clean the
That's
toilet.
right.
I will clean the toilet. You will clean the toilet. We will all clean the toilet.
Yeah. The point is, we think we have to take out the human factor out of everything if we want to have utopia, and technology is gonna do that for
But
us.
that's then not non-human utopia.
Oh, if we are human, we cannot do it because as we want more. We want more. We just, you know, baby is born and he likes
Yeah,
more.
but
But
if
the
you
point
don't
is,
respect the basic human like, instincts and principles, then you know your utopia will be very utopian.
but then we have
We would want
laws.
that.
We have
One
laws.
word.
We have laws that are actually taking out the basic instincts out of us. You know, like well, that's
Can
what
I
we.
go
I don't
with that?
disagree. What's the example? I just
What you said is really great. That, you know, because I think there's the utopia that we can imagine and can be real, and then there's the utopia we sometimes use as something that's beyond humanity. It's almost a post-human thing.
Yeah.
And our humanity has to be something we can envision. That's kind of what I mean by human scales, I guess.
Well,
Whatever. I
it
appreciate that.
looks like it's kind of like utopia is finding a way to manage ourselves.
Yeah.
You know? And to manage ourselves like living together, because it seems like we kind of failed to do that.
It's not a
On a
utopia.
global
It's
scale.
a utopia. So what do we do? How do you manage yourselves? That's my whole point. What do we do as
I have a
individuals?
question. You said you're a historian? But,
Yeah, I am.
well, I don't remember exactly the figure, but like in ancient Greece or Alexander would remember the number, the exact number. Like they believe that democracy is only possible up to, what was it, 10,000? Like population of 10, 20,000?
Well, that's what the Enlightenment thinkers thought when they looked back to ancient Greece and looked to the polis.
That was
So I think-
Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, I think.
No, no, no,
So
He was the one who said
Montesquieu said the
democracy
same thing.
works with small population countries.
Okay, I thought it was
But no,
like
okay,
in
that's-
ancient Greece. Anyway, yeah.
But no, but the model of people like Rousseau and Montesquieu, they look back to ancient Greece
Oh, okay.
and the polis. And the polis is interesting, even though it's very unequal, women didn't have rights.
Yeah.
There's a lot of slaves in that society. It was
Yes.
a war-based society in a lot of ways, but it was still direct democracy. They even had this thing
Yeah.
called randomocracy, what we call randomocracy, in which the General Assembly was chosen randomly from the people. Athens had that, and you just, when it was your time to serve, you served. Instead of being elected in a democratic system, people were just chosen from the population. You know, of course, it was men, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
who were
Men
citizens.
From certain, like, yeah.
But that in a way might end up being more democratic because you're don't have the Koch brothers and these corporate interests interfering
Yeah.
in the decision making.
Unless they can bribe all of us, which
Yeah.
I'm cool with.
Yeah.
You know, you have
So the question is like, do you
But the Greek, no, back to your point though, that the Greeks were the model, and it was actually James Madison in the United States who said, no, you need a big society with competing factions for it to work. But maybe we need to reject Madison and go back to maybe the Greek, the Polish.
it's like, can utopia function on like, massive scale?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Even like the ideas like before, like novels or whatever, like Aldous Huxley also had like, his, like utopian society. He was more on like the inside with like the people who are spiritually uplifted and yeah. So, but they are all ideas of like small groups of people.
Yeah. We also have the medieval German cities, for instance, medieval communities, or the polis. I guess there's not that many examples, but you have these utopian communities that show up from time to time in history, but they're always small.
Yeah.
And things always go wrong when it gets large. So I think James Madison was wrong about this. That you really need small scale, human scale. It comes back to this term. To me, that's what is key.
Like, don't all missionaries like have a max number, and then once you get to a certain point, you break the odds?
666.
And it's not that they don't reject the technology. They decide, is this technology good for our community here? They say, our values community, therefore forms are good. But they might introduce other technologies that might strengthen their community or strengthen their values.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. It's not just you open the door and say, technology is going to save us. That's dangerous, it seems to me. But the Amish, although I think their religious nuttery is dangerous.
Yeah,
But it's an interesting idea of how they were able to form a community, and it survived for hundreds of years.
Yeah, and for a lot of people in there, I mean, they do have the choice to leave, blah, 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 blah. So a lot of people do feel it is utopia as they return back, you know, to find somewhere else in the world. But some people do reject it for a bit of regular existence.
Civilized.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is it's to each his own. It's, yeah, you gotta do sort of a small scale thing because what motivates people and what people want in the world is vastly different. So many people have so many different motives. So, yeah, one person's utopia is another person's.
I have to think about something like, what's going to be our enemy then? What is going to push us forward? There is another question, like I often ask myself, okay, like this, I think it's Tolstoy that said, if there was no sadness, I wouldn't write this. So these emotions are going to disappear back then, you know. What is going to make, everybody's going to be happy. Well, really, I mean, okay, everybody's going to be happy, everybody's going to be cool, okay? Now, what is going to make them write, do stuff? I don't know, I don't say, okay, listen, forget about Utopia, everything's going to be boring, but what, have you ever, anybody will think about, okay, what are people going to mindset is going to have, what is going to be pushing them to, you know, I mean, okay, lots of, in science and culture is created by the ongoing events, you know, wars, death, sudden death, especially.
Maybe there will be art about love and happiness and novels about that.
But
no worse.
Yeah, they will get sick, yeah, okay. But
there's another side to your question. Yeah, okay, so is it Tolstoy or Dostoevsky? Which one was it? Doesn't write because he's not sad. Wouldn't write if he wasn't sad. But how many Mozarts are in Foxconn factories in Shenzhen? Or how many Mozarts are in coal mines right now? And eliminating that suffering may actually make a more creative world.
yeah, but
I actually may not believe that suffering creates great art. I'm not sure that's true.
Well, let me.
It inspire some things, but I'm not convinced of that.
And we can't have an argument that like we'll miss out on all the good art if we stop war and poverty. You know?
Let me give one quick suggestion. One of my favorite books. There's actually two books. The first one was called Ecotopia, and the second one was called Ecotopia Emerging. The stuff that happened before the first book was actually written second by writer Ernest Callenbach. And in the story Ecotopia, even though, you know, they've got high-speed trains where they're like sleeper trains, so you smoke hookahs and go to sleep in the bed, and then you arrive at your destination, and people have all the food that they want, and education is free, and healthcare is free. They actually have this thing for young men between the ages of, 22 and 30, where I think it's required that at least one time in that time period you have to go and you fight. Like they get groups of people together and they fight each other. I can't remember exactly how it works. Spears. I mean, it's almost like what the Hunger Games, exactly. But it's not exactly the same. This is still there's no essential. It's not necessarily the central government that's making them do it.
In that small street round the corner, cute Balkanita is working in the store. She's selling things, mostly sweets from Balkan, Turkey and the Middle East. She's sweeter than all the sweets she sells. To enter this place feels really well. It did not take me long to get addicted. Baklava cake, only she can make. Baklava lava, the sweetest thing that I could discover. Baklava lava, she brings me smile, my ultra superpower. Baklava lava, the sweetest thing that I could discover. Baklava lava, she brings me smile, my ultra superpower. on top, and so is my weight. I simply cannot get enough. My appetite keeps telling me, give me, give me, give me, give me, give me more and more. I will keep on doing that until this volcanita realize, kilo, kilo. Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Balkan lands is walking. When she passes, each man she passes, each man goes ooh. Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Balkan lands is walking. When she passes, each